A quintessential French getaway, the Dordogne is not only known as a scenic destination for travelers outside of France but is also a popular haunt for locals. With fortified towns, quaint villages, rich historic significance and a picturesque countryside, the Dordogne is the perfect spot to retreat to. An idyllic rural region that represents the France of a bygone age, the Dordogne is a popular spot for those looking for a combination of great food, outdoor adventures, and spellbinding natural landscapes. Considered one of the country's foremost gastronomic regions, it's a fantastic place to taste some of France's most beloved dishes, most notably pâté de foie gras, duck, and wild truffles. The Dordogne's tumultuous history is on show everywhere you look. From the Bastides's, fortified towns, to the imposing and well-protected rock-top chateau, the region's strategic importance is seen in its distinctive architecture and fascinating urban planning. The region is also home to some of the finest prehistoric cave paintings in the world, a series of artistic works that will astound and delight. Rolling hills, endless vineyards, and striking valleys all compete for your attention. The Dordogne remains a place in which hopping in the car and getting lost in the countryside is not only possible, but highly enjoyable. The Dordogne is known for a scenic destination for travelers outside of France, but it is also a popular haunt for locals. Bergerac is a town in southwest France. It's known for its old town's half-timbered buildings and the castles that dot the surrounding countryside. In the town, the Maison des Vins showcases the region's wine. Known as the gateway to the Dordogne, Bergerac is a beautiful riverside city that's home to a sumptuous array of bistros, cafes and restaurants that will delight your inner foodie. With a focus firmly fixed on local produce such as wild boar, partridge, river trout, pâté and of course that fine delicacy, truffle, you certainly won't go hungry. The city dates back to the 11th century when it was home to the region's only Dordogne river crossing. This gave it strategic prominence and Bergerac flourished, soon profiting from the export of local produce which included, of course, Bordeaux wine. Discovered by accident by a group of teenagers in 1940, the caves of Lascaux hold some of the world's earliest known cave paintings. Dating back to the Paleolithic period and thought to be around 17,300 years old, the paintings consist of large animals that were known to have existed at that time. Along with the Loire, Rhône, Seine, and Garonne, the Dordogne is one of France's great rivers. Arising some 1,700 meters up in the mountains of central France, it runs for 300 miles west before meeting the Atlantic near Bordeaux. It travels through some classic French landscapes, from the rumpled domes of the Massif Central to the rolling fields of the Périgueux. Edged by woods and crisscrossed by tributaries, the Dordogne's character changes with the seasons. In summer, some sections dry to a trickle, but in winter, the river often bursts its banks, flooding villages and fields. Beynac is a small village on the Dordogne River, 8 kilometers southwest of Sarlat in the Dordogne. The village is more correctly called Beynac et Cazenac being its close neighbor, although the full name is not used very often. This very attractive village is spread along the northern bank of the river, and then continues up the hill to the chateau perched above. Beynac is listed as one of the most beautiful villages in France. Beynac is an unmissable destination if you are visiting this part of the Dordogne department, and it is one of the most impressive villages in France. Start your visit with a stroll along the riverside to appreciate the setting. Follow the road a little way to the east of the village for a stunning view of Beynac with the castle perched on the cliff above. Back in the village center you can follow the main street that climbs the hill. This steep street up the hill is called the Basketmaker's Path, Carnival del Panuraires. Exploring Beynac is easy as you simply follow this narrow lane as it winds its way up through the lovely traditional Dordogne honey-colored buildings, taking occasional detours into narrow alleys and side streets. Eventually you reach the highlight in Beynac, the castle set on top of a high cliff looking down on a bend in the Dordogne River and high above much of the little village of Beynac. The Château de Beynac was a French stronghold, while the English had to make do with the equally magnificent Château de Castelnau on the other side of the river. The castle has a suitably colorful history, dating from the Hundred Years' War and the Albigensian Crusade, and is a very interesting chateau to visit. Even if you have no interest in the magnificent views across miles of beautiful countryside, you will surely want to stand in the same spot as Richard the Lionheart and admire the surrounding scenery. The Church of Notre Dame de l'Assomption was once the chapel for the castle and inside the first circle of fortifications. The church was built in the 12th century with two chapels added in the 16th and 17th century, and still has a stone, lows, roof. Inside the church, the choir area and the tabernacle are the points of interest. There is also an interesting archaeology park in Beynac, where typical Neolithic France buildings have been constructed. Find time as well to visit neighboring Cathedrale to see its little church and yet more magnificent views. Beynac is a good starting point for many river activities, for example canoeing and fishing, and activities such as walking and cycling in the Dordogne region. Trips along the river in traditional boats called gabber are also available. Backed against a steep cliff and tucked away in a valley, Roque-Gageac is another spectacular medieval town that benefits from a Mediterranean microclimate and an impressive fortress that was constructed in and around the cliff's many caves. Roque-Gageac is one of France's most beautiful villages. In a stunning position on the north bank of the Dordogne River and backed by a steep hill, cliff, with little to suggest that much has changed there in the last 300 years, Roque-Gageac is truly the perfect picture postcard village. It is about 8 kilometers from the historic town of Sarlat. The golden yellow houses with their traditional Périgueux roofs line the river and spread up the hill behind. While some of the properties in Roque-Gageac are quite modest, there is also an impressive number of grand houses among them. One of the grandest of these is near the road as you enter from Beynac, the 19th century, although it appears older, Château de la Malartrie built in Renaissance style. The troglodyte fort set in the cliffs 40 meters above Roque-Gageac is fascinating, and significant vestiges of the 12th century construction are still standing. The strong defensive position of Roque-Gageac and the fortress, whose defenses continue to be elaborated up to the 17th century, meant that it held an important strategic and defensive position in the area. Just below the troglodyte fort is one of La Roque-Gageac's most impressive buildings, the Renaissance Manoir de Tarde with its round tower and mullioned windows. The whole village, but especially the bit near the church, is an interesting tropical-style exotic garden that you can wander through as you walk up the hill. The variety of plants is made possible because the cliff behind the village protects it from the cold weather from the north, while the open view to the south ensures it catches plenty of sunshine. It was created by Gerard Dorn in 1970 and has flourished ever since. Awarded the Plus Beau Villages de France label, Most Beautiful Villages in France, the Bastide of Monpazier dazzles with its exceptional character. It has remained virtually intact since it was founded in 1284, in the name of King Edward I of England. Acknowledged as the model Bastide with its perfect orthogonal layout, it would influence the style of some of the greatest architects. Stroll along its narrow streets and alleyways, wander under its arches and explore its Thursday morning market, on the Place des Cornières that has existed for over 700 years. Montignac is a pretty historic town on the banks of the Vézère River that is most known for its famous nearby neighbor Lascaux Caves. It is about 20 kilometers from Sarlat and about 40 kilometers from the transport hub of Brive. One of the first things you will notice is the river with its attractive stone bridge and attractive balconied houses along the riverfront. The main street of the town dates from the 14th century and has many lovely old stone houses and stores. Perched high above the town on a rocky outcrop is the remains of Château de Montignac, once an important defensive castle in the area but now a ruin. A beautiful stone arch bridge spans the river. The produce market is held every Wednesday. Perigueux is an important town in the central part of the Dordogne department to the northwest of Sarlat, 66 kilometers. In fact, it is the capital, prefecture, of the department, and the town has played an important role in the region for more than 2,000 years. There are really two towns to see at Perigueux, the medieval town and the Roman town, as well as an imposing cathedral. Go to the tourist office when you arrive and ask for their carte touristique to make sure you don't miss anything. I had been to Perigueux twice on shopping trips before realizing what a beautiful medieval center it has. Arriving in Perigueux, the first thing to attract your attention is the amazing St-Front Cathedral, which dominates the town center. The original church was built in about 1120 and changed in the 19th century by Paul Abadie, who used it as a model for the design of the Sacré-Cœur church in Montmartre. Its layout is in the shape of the Greek cross, similar to St. Mark's in Venice, and above the center in each arm a lovely domed roof, cupola, has been added. Apparently architects and locals do not like the changes and prefer the more traditional Romanesque church of Saint Étienne de la Cité, which used to be the Cathedral of Perigueux. Sarlat, now we're talking. the most famous town in the region and one of the most renowned and visited in France. It is also one of the most attractive. Often called just Sarlat, the town is actually twinned with its less famous neighbor and is more correctly called Sarlat-la-Canéda. Sarlat is in the region called the Périgueux Noir in the southwest of France. Destined to be besieged by tourists at almost all times of the year, Sarlat is a beautiful, well-restored town a few kilometers north of the river Dordogne. The old town, dating from both medieval and Renaissance times, is a pleasure to visit, especially during the spring and autumn, or early in the morning. If you can catch the early morning sunshine on the yellow sandstone buildings, so much the better. Before setting off for your walk around Sarlat, visit the tourist office, which can provide a suggested walking tour to take in the key attractions. The tourist information office is near to the cathedral. After your visit, there is lots to see in the area around Sarlat. Broadly, the pedestrianized Rue de la Republique runs the length of the old town, with mazes of narrow streets either side. The cathedral is to the southeast of Sarlat, with the attractive Place de Peyro and Hotel de la Boétie. Northeast is the lovely Place de la Liberté and the wonderful winding street of the Rue des Consuls. The cathedral was originally the Church of Sarlat Abbey. Over the centuries it has been added to and transformed and is now a mix of Roman, Gothic and other styles. The Cour du Cloître and the nearby Cour des Fontaines and the Cour des Chanoines were all originally part of the abbey. That's all from Dordogne, France. Thanks for watching our video. Please do not forget to subscribe, like and share our videos.